Hello, everyone. I'm back after all the testing. Hopefully, this is going to work. I'm live from South Slope. Took a look outside. That would be Subs and stuff across the street. It's Fifth Avenue between 17th and 18th Streets in the South Slope area of Park Slope. Actually, some people call it Greenwood Heights. Some people call it other things. Anyway, there was a great shooting the other day down the block. That was fun. I have my billy club, just in case anybody gets wise, because there's been some incidents, shall we say, during this time of quarantine. So our guest tonight is going to be Jason Black. Hopefully this is going to work out, from the mighty Hot Water Music, I might add. Yeah, hopefully this is going to work out, because we've been having some problems, because we're old guys who don't know what we're doing with technology. Sorry. Anyway, I'm just waiting for Jay right now. Hopefully I don't destroy Chris's show like I did last week. Hi, Chris. I don't think you're watching yet because you're sick of seeing my face. Who else is coming on here? Where's all my friends? Anyway, a grumpy warlock. That's a good name. I like that. How's everybody doing? I mean, this is crazy. We do this every night at 8 o'clock, Monday through Friday. Yeah, it's been great, and I want to thank Chris Enriquez for coming to us with the idea and utilizing his interviewing skills, which he's pretty good at. And his drumming skills are even way better, though. Yeah, we've just been having fun. Oh, I'm killing it so far. Thanks, Chris. Thanks. Yeah. Here, you want to take a look? Look, check out the sign. Every day, not now. Yeah. So things have been a little rough. Jason's on there. Let's see if this fucking works.
Drum roll. Brrr. Chris, give me a drum roll. Chris, play exactly what I tell you to play. Yes! Yes! Oh my god. Oh my god. What device are you on?
I'm on my Kindle now.
Oh shit. So
I'm on my book reader.
Oh wow. All right. Well, yeah, and I just got a cheers from Chris, even though he doesn't drink. Neither do you. So
no,
cheers.
There you go.
How you doing, buddy?
I'm all right, man. I mean, I'm probably doing way better than a lot of people. I'm definitely doing way better than a lot of people. How are you doing?
I got no income. Don't know when my places are going to reopen, but such is life. And I don't want to. Hey, what's up? Freaking Jeffy Jeff song.
Jesus, I see him.
Say something snarky, Jeff. They're just going along, man. It's like every day is like a rush of emotion. Every hour is a different feeling. Like it's pretty crazy, but and having to homeschool a child is fucking terrible. But anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I can, again, very lucky on pretty much every possible level. So I don't want to say I hate talking about it, because obviously that's like what I spend half my day talking about, if not more, with anyone I talk to, is because it's a pretty intense, all-consuming situation in the whole world right now. But it's really, I can't imagine half of the shit that people have to deal with. It's nuts.
Yeah, I was just saying before you got on that the amount of like break-ins and like weird shit that's been going on has been it's getting more and more intense. And so yeah, I got my billy club, which I travel with.
Yeah, you get like opportunistic people, and then people that are just fucking desperate. It's like I need to eat or whatever, and I have nothing. Like I had nothing, and now I have extra nothing. So.
Are you still working?
Yeah, I am. I mean, we're lucky we're both still working. It's been intense. I mean, our boss, he's probably on right now, actually. He said he was going to check it out. There have been a lot of people everyone's like trying to keep normalcy as much as possible from what I can tell, where everyone's like, here's what I can afford to pay for rent this month. And everyone's, you know, my boss is like, that's cool. That's what you can afford. Like, it's a lot of, I think that like the rent situation is really crazy. There's been no relief offered to anyone across the board. Like, to owners, renters, nothing. So it's like everyone's like, every renter's like, I can't afford to pay my rent, and every owner's like, dude, I can't afford to pay the mortgage. Like, and then the mortgage company can afford everything, but says I can't afford. You know, it doesn't. Things like that where people don't, people that don't deal with that kind of situation don't really. And nor should they. It's like, if you can't pay your rent, why do you care if the landlord can't pay the mortgage?
Right. Yeah. And you know, and not every landlord is a rich dude, and
exactly.
You know, but a lot of them do make quite a bit of money. And here in New York, they deferred mortgages for 3 months, so they can get away with quite a bit right now. Anyway, I don't know. Let's talk about positive shit, yo. I know Chris would want me to do that because he's like, Artie's gonna fall down the rabbit hole.
I go down
He's going to start talking about 5G.
Climbing out of the rabbit hole. Between the two of us, we could just make everyone sign off and go, go to bed.
So, Jason Black from Hot Water Music is an incredibly old friend of mine. I'd love to go over our history just in open, you know, so everybody understands why we probably have 8,000 inside jokes. But we've known each other since the late 90s. We toured together when I was an Aerotype. And those were some pretty crazy tours.
Yes,
which I'll get into one particular story a little later. Yeah, and Jason was always this guy who was kind of a saucy character, especially when he drank. So
I'm much nicer than I used to be these days. That's
yeah, oh my God, you're like night and day, dude. Not a dick to me, but I've seen you work some promoters over a couple of times.
I had some issues, and you know.
But fast forward a bunch of years later, Jason moved to Brooklyn, and he asked me, him and his wife Nelty, who's a lovely, glorious human being. I'm sure she's there somewhere in the house.
In the other room, yeah, she's around.
We started a band called Unwed, and that was probably one of the better band experiences I've ever had, personally.
That's super fun.
Yeah, I mean, I also was the only person in the band who drank. So
that was super fun for you. You didn't have to worry about anything.
But you know, it was one of those experiences that I'll say really enlightened me a lot to back in the old days when watching Hot Water Music. You know, I'd always be like, you know, it's like, it's all right, it's punk rock, I get it, you know, it's maybe a little emo, very Fugazi, very, very Fugazi, and I would imagine that those guys were a huge influence. Who else influenced you guys besides, say, Fugazi or some of the obvious ones? Yeah,
I mean, I think that was a big one because that was sort of like, George and I met in high school, and I'm a drummer for Hot Water, and when we met, he was like, had just moved down from Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, like super, you know, Dunkin' Donuts flavored dude, and like, in full metal. And I was still, I mean, I think everyone kind of in our age group, like, I feel like most of us had that, like, I mean, there were the cool kids that only liked punk rock and never liked metal, but
right, yeah, we weren't those people.
And like a lot of our friends, like, we all had that weird, like, I skated and listened to Guns N' Roses, like, you know, and I like went to see Def Leppard twice.
Did you take lessons? Were you trained? You did? Okay.
Yeah, and that's like, so George and I met in high school actually at the like last half of the day was sort of, it was a visual performing arts program, and it was his district at high school, and I went over there in the afternoon from the high school I was going to, and we just had like 3 hours of music. And him and I met in jazz band, and he was just like fully into metal, hated punk rock, was like, this sucks, these fools can't play. And he's right. Like, they couldn't play, so whatever.
How was he in a band with Chris Waller, for fuck's sake?
Well, Fugazi was the one that I played for him, and he was like, "This is pretty cool. All right, fine." So like that, it got him over the hump to where he could listen to. I think that and like Start Today was together enough as far as hardcore records and catchy enough that he was like, "Okay, I can understand this."
Yeah.
Like if you played him like the Minor Threat self-titled, he's like, "This sounds like somebody broke all their gear. Like I don't want to listen to, you know." So, so for everyone, it was a lot of different influences. Like, I mean, he, you know, was a full metal dude, and then we did jazz band together, and then kind of, I would say when we started playing, like there were the bands that I feel like Discord was a really common thread, like because.
So what year are we talking about here? Like 95?
5.
Yeah. Okay.
And so like everybody liked Fugazi. Everybody liked Jawbox. Everybody liked Shudder to Think. Like some people could like sit down and you know, like Wallard would throw on a lot more Black Flag than the rest of us would, style like just straight punk stuff. Chuck was always a little more in the like Social Distortion-y vein.
Right.
And then like George and I'd sit around listening to Mr. Bungle and shit. So like, you know.
No, I mean, you guys are honestly, you know, and it was funny. Like I had an experience when the Draft played at Vitus. Like you guys there was one kid who kept going up on stage, so I went up to sort of bounce him off and stay there and make sure he was off. And like I really got to stand on this. I stood on the side of the stage for Hot Water. But there was something about, maybe it was the Vitus stage that really like lent itself to feeling it. But like, holy fucking shit. Like I got it. Right at that moment, I got it. I was like, you can't help but move when you hear these two guys play together. Like it doesn't, you know what I mean? Like it just.
And we don't like shut up either, so that doesn't help. Like we're both fighting over everything the whole time. I mean, we've gotten better about that too. No, thank you. That's a really nice thing to say. I mean, yeah, we've been playing together since we were like 15. So I think that helps a lot. And George has really good feel. Like there's a feel that I'm really comfortable with and that I can play well with. Because I've played with not that many drummers actually, for more than like a day or two or whatever. And there's not many that if Jeff's still watching, he's okay. Like, Jeff's feel is super rad too, and it's not, but it's super different than George's. But if a drummer doesn't have good feel, like I have played with some drummers that, and not in bands or anything, just like jammed with people or whatever. If there's like the thing where for me, if I look at a drummer and their wrist doesn't bend when they hit the hi-hat, it freaks me out because I feel like it's just going to be a little too like. It works for a lot of stuff, but it doesn't work for how I play.
Right. No, totally. I mean, you play a lot though. Like for, you know, like, I mean, I know with Hot Water, you're filling in space and, you know, in you know, cause it's like kind of the basic punk rock shit. So like you go into doing a lot of fills. I know with Unwed, it was one of the cool experiences for me. And I know I'm going to see a little thing from George down there to don't make this about you. But like you know, when I wrote bass lines that, you know, you wrote guitar parts, I wrote bass lines. We went back and forth with that. But the way that you played my bass lines was spectacular, and it was like I remember being at McTernan's studio in Baltimore and we were recording, and like watching you play, and I was like, fucking shit, because I played bass in Aegis. And, you know, like I can't play without a fucking full-on rat pedal or like some distortion and shit, and, you know, play with a pick, and like you're fucking just wailing on it. And that's right. The Unwed record is sweet. Thank you.
True.
But yeah, there's something about you and George together that really makes everybody move. And, you know, I thought back to like those tours we did in the late 90s where I was just like, you know, everybody was sweaty and going crazy and like, and that's the reason why. A great rhythm section. So let me ask you this. So I mean, obviously I have some inside info because we're friends. and whatnot. But like, say like your favorite bass players, and like we're not talking punk rock, we're not talking anything.
No.
Like I know you're a Rush fan, and
of course.
and was
Fucking chill, man.
was Getty or any of those people a reason why you started playing, or?
Not why I started playing is a hilarious story.
Let's hear it.
Getty was I probably actually isn't that funny to anyone else. It is to me. But Getty was a super huge influence. I mean, I definitely rip him off a lot. I would say him, and then Carl Alvarez from Descendants, and then Bob Thompson that played in this band Big Drill Car.
Oh,
It
yeah,
was also on Cruise, like back in Descendants. That was one of the first records where I figured out, like, this dude knows jazz because he's doing basically like doing triads and stuff around the chords. He's doing walking bass lines in a punk rock setting. And I finally figured out, like, there was a couple moments where I finally figured out what someone's like, I like to call it like what their tricks are. Like, I have 4 or whatever, and as soon as you figure them out, you can play anything I've written because it's the same thing all the time. And it's like, as soon as I figure out, like, Say My Am's tricks or Jawbox's tricks or whatever, like, and it's not that they're like tricks to fool the listener. It's just like their particular kind of quirks or ticks or whatever, where you can be like, oh, now I have that in my like arsenal of like, that's how I make that sound. Cool. So now I can build that into my thing. So for me, it was really like Carl, Bob, Getty, Flea for sure, and Cliff Burton probably.
It's a good combo.
And like, it's still Jocko too. Not that I play anything like Cliff Burton or Jocko or any of those guys really, but I mean, I definitely play a lot like Carl. And Bob. That's definitely, I think part of that is just, I stole a lot of stuff from him, and part of that is the kind of bands we play, and it's sort of is how.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, that's like the genre itself.
Thing. Yeah, but I started playing in middle school. We had like a rotating arts period, and one of the periods was orchestra, and I ended up playing string bass. I don't even remember why. I think I kind of picked it because nobody else did, or whatever. So I played that like once a week for a year or something. And I finally, this is like, MTV's huge, Poison, everyone, you know, whatever. I was like eating dinner, watching the top 10 videos of the day or whatever. And
late
like,
80s.
Yeah, like Bon Jovi, Poison, Skid Row, all that kind of stuff. Like just starting to really get into music and like have friends and do stuff. And I feel like it was, I really, really think it was like what the Cat Dragged In, that I was reading the liner notes, and I was bass. Like, I finally figured out that it wasn't just 3 electric guitars. I was like, oh wait, so that's just what, it's the exact same thing as a string bass, but it plugs in, and I can be in a band. I want that. So my grandma bought me my first bass, and like, probably 13, I think. And that's how I started playing electric bass. I guess it's Bobby Dahl's fault from Poison. So.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's an interesting twist. And at this point, you grew up in Sarasota or St. Petersburg?
Mm-hmm.
Sarasota. Okay. And how did you guys all end up in Gainesville? Because the Gainesville scene, of course, now is legendary. The hardback and, you know, all that shit. You guys are a bunch of fucking wise asses down there, I have so many stories about kids being, you know, I mean, I guess we all kind of were in our own way.
Yeah. Well, that's where I went to college. So.
Oh, okay. All right.
Like, George and I were doing a band in high school with like, and then he and I did we did a lot of shit. Like, we had a band that did some stuff in high school. And by some stuff, I mean like made a demo and like played at friends' parties and stuff like that. I feel like me and him and he was playing in a lot of death metal bands at that time. Like, he played in Burial for a while. He was
Florida.
He was taking lessons from Sean Reinert that was in Atheist.
Yeah.
So like, and those dudes atheists used to practice around the corner from, like, we in Florida, you practiced in storage units, like, so where you pull into, like, you know, you store or whatever. Everyone would just throw.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. How many storage units have you played a show in?
A lot. We played a show in Jimmy Eat World's practice space storage room with them in Arizona. Like, God, I don't even know how long ago. Just kind of, we're like, can we please play at your storage place? I think we played one show with them somewhere else before that, and they were like, yeah, sure.
Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but it seems like a southern thing to do that.
And that's so. We were doing. I can't remember if me and George and Chuck were doing a band at that point or not.
So Chuck was from Sarasota as well, or?
Yeah, and then Wallard was from Bradenton, which is like the town up from us. So it's basically the same scene. And Wallard had kind of been in more of like the hardcore punk rock scene more than the rest of us a little bit. We were all sort of, I mean, we're just weird dudes. Like, I don't know, George hung out, like me and George hung out with death metal dudes. I hung out with a bunch of like nerds from school. I don't like, and
so when you guys met in Gainesville, when you guys went up to Gainesville, so you and George went, and then
I went and I was there for a year, and we were still like, I started a new band when I was up there. The guy that I started that band with, when I came home for the summer, I feel like he brought Wallard into that band, and then we needed a drummer, so I called George. And so this would be like 93, 94. 94, those three dudes moved up. Because Sarasota, like, I mean, it's huge now, but it is pretty retiree, you know, and Gainesville is like,
it's young.
It's with the label and shows. So that's, you know, everyone wanted to live there. We had two different bands at the time, and George was in both of them, and I was filling in, and George and Chuck had kind of like a Tool, Alice in Chains vibe band that I was filling in for, because the bass player, I think just till they found somebody, I can't remember what was going on with that. And then George was playing with me and Wallard and this dude, Zach. And anyway, everyone moved up, and then the singer for George and Chuck's band quit, and the singer for me and Chris's band quit, so we just made one band. That's how that happened. And initially, Chuck was just supposed to sing, but he just kept playing guitar, like, at every practice, so we were just like, all right, fine, he's playing guitar too. Like, just kind of, there was never, that's literally how the whole band has always been, is just like, oh, you're just going to do that too? Okay, fine. Like,
well, I mean, let me ask you this. So then you guys start the band, and I mean, how quickly before, like, I don't know when you got signed to No Idea, or what, like, I don't know if there were contracts with No Idea, you didn't get signed or whatever.
No,
but I mean, I remember the No Idea house in Gainesville. That was like the mansion on the corner of George's block where we used to stay all the time. And yeah, it's interesting because like okay, when I wrote this down actually. I was going to ask you about a conversation that we had back in the day, probably like 98 or 99. And I walked up to your merch table, and you had like fucking 45 releases, and like it was like there was more fucking releases than you could possibly imagine on every different label you could ever fucking imagine. And I remember talking, I don't know if I talked to you or I talked to Chuck, probably Chuck because he was drunk as shit. You were probably too, or Caleb, somebody.
Highly probable.
But I was just like, yo, like, what the fuck, man? Like, how do you guys put out so much shit? And I think the answer was, look, if you put out stuff on all these different labels, and like you spread yourself out way around everything, and you get to use all of their resources, which was really an interesting idea and kind of way ahead of the game. And you know, like, I don't know, it might have been you that said it to me, but it kind of like just something just clicked in my head, and I was like, that's fucking really smart. You know, it's like, because these guys are on tour constantly, and so like they want to have the resource of all these different labels taking care of them or at least promoting them or promoting their name. So, I mean, was that something that was done?
It definitely, I mean, we didn't do anything on purpose or with a plan. I wouldn't, at least back then.
You still don't.
Yeah, it kind of was. I mean, there was, because this is also still, I feel like it's kind of at the tail end of when like you would buy everything that came out on Discord or everything that came out on Lookout.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Like labels had identities and you relied on them for like quality.
Well, a label was a brand.
Right, and it was like they might all be different, like the bands would be different, and maybe you wouldn't like all of them, but you'd still like at least check it out and probably buy like, oh, I'll just buy a 7-inch by that band and see if I like it or not, and if I don't, then whatever, that's cool. So at that point, we were trying to, because we've never fit in anywhere. I mean, it's one of those things where we have, for as much success and as luck as we have had, we have been able to watch bands that fit in well just like hurdle us and like
and you guys, when you guys signed to Epitaph, what was funny about that is that I've seen so many bands sign to Epitaph and just turn into Rancid, you know what I mean, or a version of Rancid, and it's like you guys definitely, or a version of whatever Epitaph band, you guys always kept your identity, and you know, it's interesting to watch the development of what you guys did. I mean, I think the last couple of records you put out are some of the best reunion records that I've ever heard, if you want to call them reunion records, I don't know. But you guys are also now following a model of touring that is incredibly common. I mean, hopefully we'll get back to it soon. But, you know, it's like doing it that way, I don't know, you guys have set yourself up really well, but that's the thing, is that you didn't really know. You know, like you were just doing it. You're just doing it.
We just went and couldn't go anymore. And eventually we figured out that this is the way we could do it, and have it work. Like, everyone has enough family and enough, like, I have a full-time job. George is in the Souls, which is like a total juggling act. And it actually works. I mean, you know, we're all really great friends. So we make it happen. We make it work for both bands as much as possible. Chuck's got his guide fishing stuff and, you know, wife and kids. So it's like nobody wants to be gone like we used to be gone. And we also we did a 20th anniversary tour, and we played, it was 2 weeks long, the last like tour we ever did. And we realized that it was like from Florida to California, basically, with a bunch of stuff in the middle. And we realized that like we did all this stuff in the middle, and we've done all this stuff in the middle for 25 years. And it's just like, we don't have the extra 8 days in our year to go like to a place where the show just isn't going to be that good. And it's kind of a hard thing to say, because it sounds like we don't appreciate all of our fans, which isn't true. We wouldn't be here without every single last one of them. But we've just had to kind of cut our losses to some degree and be like, we're going to play where the shows are always good, because we can only do so many. And we want to have fun when we go play the shows. And so, and you know, not that a show with 50 people can't be a lot of fun, because it can play shows that are small. Like, it happens. Nothing is foolproof, obviously.
Which I actually wanted to bring up. This is going to segue into my next point.
Great, do it.
Long Island. Okay.
How bad it is for us?
Yeah.
I mean, it's the fucking pits, dude. Like,
Well, no, but what's okay? So, Jason, this is on my list of things as well. And what's crazy about that, because we've talked about it before, and you know, I'm from Long Island, and this age of quarantine thing can get very Long Island centric, especially with Chris and whatnot and Dave. But like, it's fucking insane to me, because Hot Water Music is the biggest influence to anybody who actually played music. So if you listen to Taking Back Sunday on their first 2 records, I mean, it's fucking Hot Water Music, done with a, you know, really good looking singer who fucking,
he's a cute
guy. And you know what I mean? Like, Like the influence, you have no fucking idea what the influence was as a band on Long Island. And then no one goes to fucking see you when you play.
Wow.
I don't understand it.
I mean, we did. Someone just posted a flyer for like us and Static Lullaby and Lawrence Arms and These Arms Are Snakes in Farmingdale, maybe.
Okay.
Which in my brain was like, oh, this is where Diodario's from. Cool. Like when we played there.
That is true.
Right? And then when we went back, I think like 2012, I think it was us and La Dispute and Menzingers did Paramount. And our managers at the time were like, this is a really good offer. I mean, Christian's always been awesome to us, the promoter.
He's talking about Christian McKnight from Live Nation.
Yeah, he's always been super good to us. And I was just like, this is going to go wrong. But we'll do it because it's the right day. It's the right deal. We're going to go play this fucking giant club with 200 people in it, which is exactly what happened. Like,
and I felt so bad. It's for some reason it makes me feel guilty. I'm just like, shit.
It was convenient. There was like coffee across the street. There was a bank nearby. Like, there's a lot of like.
Since you stopped drinking, you're always looking for the positives.
Yeah, like I was like, well, we need to do all these things, but yeah, I mean, how many people? And then every time, like when I was playing in Senses Fail, every Crazy Donkey show was like crazy nuts. Like they destroy it on Long Island. So I was like, this is obviously a place where people live and go to shows. The Souls have great shows out there with George.
I mean, the Souls, but we booked the Souls from. I think the first time we booked the Souls was in 1992. And
yeah, they can kind of do like a 3-week tour around the Northeast and just make it happen.
Yeah, I mean they work that area so much, and they also like on Long Island especially they were I always say they were the first band that I saw that brought girls to shows, and it was like whoa why is there so 50% girls, maybe even more, and I was like wow, these guys just taught me about how life works. They literally did. I mean they didn't know they were doing it, but yeah, it's funny. I mean, and I apologize for Long Island, but you guys musically, you guys are probably, I mean, I would say between Lifetime and Hot Water and, I'm trying to think of maybe another one, like some of the Long Island bands, obviously, like you guys are such a huge influence on everybody. And again, like when Take It Back Sunday came out, I was just like, okay, this sounds a lot like Hot Water Music, but they did their own take on it. They didn't have that the fucking drunken sailor Chuck and Wallard thing, but like it was a similar like back and forth vocal thing, and like the music was very similar. It's really interesting. I don't know. I always found that fucking weird. Okay, I wanted to talk to you about one story. So we did a bunch of tours together in the late 90s and early 2000s. And there was a couple, there was one, you guys broke up when you went to Europe, right? And what year was that?
Yeah, 98. That was our first European tour, which was basically like a 5.5-week German tour.
Yes, you will play Leipzig and you will play.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I love Germany. So in hindsight, it was like the introduction to one of my favorite places ever. But yeah, that was a really rough tour.
Yeah, I mean, well, you guys had been on the road for a long time and whatnot. But I remember, like, so you got back together, and I believe that you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the first show was at the Melody in New Brunswick, and you guys drove up, and it was 2 shows in one day. Right?
That makes sense.
And it was Raina Maria and Aerotype. And we did both shows. We did a day show and a night show. And I remember it was so crowded and no one would move that we had to get our bass cab over, or maybe we got your bass cab over the fucking crowd.
Yes, that was the thing. I think it was actually, I feel like it was Aerotype, Leatherface, Kid Dynamite, and Hot Water.
Okay, yeah, that might be right. Yeah, your memory is probably better than mine.
Maybe Small Brown Bike too. I don't know.
No, I never played with Small Brown Bike.
Never? Jeff, you on there? Can you confirm or deny? He might not have been in the band then. I feel like that was what the show was, but And that also, I might be confusing it with the one when the Melody caught on fire. Did Melody catch on fire?
Well, right.
Like
So that was the Hot Water Leatherface Airtype tour, which I was going to bring up after this because like that show. So let's tell that story because that story is fucking legendary. So I think we played in Boston the night before, and Piebald pissed us all off because they like showed up and acted like dicks or something. I don't remember, but
I'm sure somebody with nothing wrong made us all mad. Like,
I'm sure. Well, I think the Leatherface guys almost beat me up that night too. But yeah. So we get to New Brunswick and we're supposed to play the Melody, and it's on fire as we drive into New Brunswick, right? And so I think you guys stopped in front of us. We stopped in front of the Melody, and it was like one of us got out of the car, and it was like, "Hey man, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna fucking do?" And they were like, "Yo, the dude from Thursday has a house and he does shows. Like he's gonna put the show on. So hey, Eva." So that's what we did, right? And it was crazy. They got like 2 kegs, which disappeared really quickly, and we played a show a basement that fit maybe 30 people, I'd say. And there were probably 500 people there.
It was sick. That was a good, I mean, I know that there's still house shows out there and I'm too old to be invited to them or go to them. And that's the way it should be. Like, I should not be allowed back in. That's for people starting things, not people that have already done it,
It's not for you to go to.
No. It's not like, dude, whose dad's here? Fuck, like, but I really like that. I hope that that's still there for kids, like doing stuff now, because that's such an awesome part of things. And it was legit too. It wasn't just like, I mean, there were houses that we would purposely play on every tour because the show would be awesome and they would take care of us. And it was like a thing and everyone came and the parents were cool with it. Or it was like, the kid's first house in college or whatever. And we've got a good basement and it's like set up, or this is where we practice, like Car versus Driver, the band from Atlanta, they had a place called the Driver Dome that they always did all the shows at. Like bands would come. It was basically bands just playing in other bands' practice spaces and bands that, lived in houses or whatever. And that was such a cool way to meet people. Also probably bum people out, but meet them too.
I don't know about that. I mean, did you ever play the Dead Body House in Athens?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But and with the reason,
a lot, actually.
Do you remember the reason why it was called the Dead Body House?
I do not.
Okay,
so Will lived there.
There was like a barn or shed in the backyard that had a skate ramp in it, like a really small skate ramp, and they said that somebody had been buried underneath it. So that's a classic one. Colton's house. Did you ever play Colton's Garage? Fuck, in Pensacola. I love Colton.
Saw Colton. He came up, him and Regina came up to our Richmond shows. Yeah. Garage a ton of times.
He came out to the Silent Majority reunion shows, him and Jason Carter, which is fucking cool as shit. It's funny. Like, so I'm going to tell a story right now. And nobody make it about, it's not about me. I'm just telling a funny story. So I played Colton Wright's Garage, right? And I actually played there. Yeah, I played there numerous times as well. And the first time I played there was with Mind Over Matter in 1993 or 94. And we played and there was about 10 people there. And he was like, yeah, we didn't hand out flyers because we didn't want too many people to come. And I was like, wow, as somebody who does shows now, I was like, that sucks. And I remember finishing, it was about 110 degrees in Florida that day. And I just jumped. I took my guitar off and I just jumped fully clothed into his pool in the back.
Yeah, it's a nice pool.
It's a great pool. So fast forward, Airtype played some club that him and Jason were booking, and Jim Rose Circus actually played after us. And the guy who hosted what the fuck that show was, a superhero. I can't remember. Somebody comment on it. It was like, real life superheroes. He was the guy who could put himself in a box and shit. He could spin on his penis, which he did at that show, which was fucking insane. I don't even know why I'm bringing this up, because later on I go to Colton's house, right? And I'm completely obliterated. and I try and climb over his wooden fence. I rip my underwear, and I climb back over his wooden fence. You know, you're just like, dude, yeah, of course you did. So I get back, and I've slept in his pool on an inflatable thingy, and
Perfect.
apparently his mom came out or something, and like I had full wood sticking out of my ripped underwear in this pool. And so I go into his living room later on, and his dad's like, "Oh, what's up, flagpole?" And I'm like, "Yo, what?
That's funny, dude. Yeah.
Dude, I swear to God." And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? He's like, "Man, my wife walked out there, saw you, came back. I had to finish her off." I swear to God. A classic. Anyway, so let's get back to you, Jason.
That is a rough segue.
I know, dude. Sorry. So let's talk a little bit about the hardback and the Gainesville scene, and what that was like for you and for you guys. Like, I mean, it was definitely like a tour stop, and for someone like me, it was not only a tour stop, but it was a place where, you know, we would stay at George's house and then travel all over Florida from there. You guys were the sort of the heads of that scene, and did you all work at the hardback, or like?
No, I don't. I think I ever did. I tried to never work anywhere anyone else in the band worked, and I've still succeeded to this day, besides the band. The hardback was one of the reasons that we ended up there. Like, long story short, I was looking at schools in Florida, and I decided to go there based on the scene, not based on UF. No offense to this, because I had a great time at school, like whatever. But that was, like, bands still don't come to Florida, and I don't blame them, because shows usually aren't that good here. But that Gainesville was just not too far in, so that was sort of the place that would get a lot of bands that were just going to kind of dip their toe in or whatever.
And it's not Jacksonville.
Yeah. I'm real close to there right now. Man, what a special place. They're trying really hard, so I'll give them that. It should be so much better than it is. Anyway, so there's two clubs at that point that were, there's actually a lot of clubs at that point. Long story short, the hardback was sort of like, it was the punk club. And when we started playing there, it did not go well. I mean, it's sort of been this is like going to sound really stupid, but it like when you were saying earlier, it's like all the bands on Long Island love you. It's like band is a good way to describe our entire career.
That's okay though. That's not the worst thing ever.
Totally,
you know?
okay.
Totally.
And when we started, it was like all the like kind of we definitely got a lot of, what's up with these guys? They must just practice all the time, and they've got like
why do these guys play so well?
Like, and not in a like, not even that complimentary of a thing, where it's like, it was a little bit more of a like, these guys got a lot of cymbals, they must be rich kind of thing, where it's like, none of us were. Like, we just like, I put a bass on layaway in high school because I wanted a nice bass, not because we were nerds, like we were music nerds, you know. So
right, yeah.
That kind of, it took a long time for us to sort of wear through the hazing that we would then later give to people for no reason. Like, it's just life, man. Like,
really?
Not really. I mean, I don't think that. Maybe. I don't know. I try to keep that in mind all the time. But yeah, we were definitely given the like cold shoulder for a while, and it was a lot of the like, you guys want to be rock stars and make money playing shows, and we really just wanted to play a bunch of shows. There was never a like, we want to be huge and famous or anything like that. Wasn't even like when we got to put out a 7-inch, it blew our minds that someone
You put
wanted
out like
to put out a
57 inches, man.
We put out a lot. That is true. But the first one, it's like our friends Sean and Pat wanted to do it, and we were like, "Are you serious?" And they're like, "Yeah, we really like this song. We really want to like put out a 7-inch for you guys." And we're like, "That's fucking awesome!" Like, and
Dude,
we
yeah,
sold like 10 in Gainesville, and we were like, "Oh my god, we sold 10!" Like,
yeah,
so
that's so sick.
it was a slow build to get to where people cared about us there at all, or would come see us there at all. At least it feels like it was in my mind. Maybe it wasn't. But that place was awesome, and it definitely is how, I mean, it's one of those like infamous places where, I mean, doors were at 10, first band at 11, like,
Which is
that's
insane.
just how it went. 3-band show. I mean, and every once in a while you'd convince someone, like, I remember the last time Jawbox played there, they were like, "We're not going on later than 10." It was like a thing, and there was no stage, and that room was, I mean, that's when they were on Atlantic and huge, and that show was in nuts. Like, there was no reason for that to have been. There was a lot of, every time Avail played there, I'm surprised no one died. Like,
oh, those shows must have been great. Oh my god.
oh, it was awesome. Like, it was just, the whole crowd was the show, you know? And that's just kind of how it always was there, which was awesome. And if I had to play a show like that now, I'd have a panic attack and go home. But, you know, then it was great. And that's, you know, we made a lot of friends there. And you know, it's where we all grew up. And there was another club called the Covered Dish that was just around the corner, that was more of the like college rock, indie rock club that everyone gave a lot of grief at the time, but we ended up getting to know and getting along really well with the owner, Sky Bill, and he would bring all of the, like, usually Jawbox, like Arches a Little, Super Chunk.
Well, yeah, it was bigger. It was way bigger than the hardback. So
yeah, it was like 400 or 500 cap, and then at that point in time, we also had Florida Theater, which was like 1,500 cap, and the school would do shows there, so they put on like Belly and Radiohead and Jesus Lizard and Helmet and Quicksand and Seaweed. So like, there was just a glut of shit to go see, constant. The amount of I mean, Midnight Oil played at UF for free when I was going there. Like, it is the amount of cool shit I got to see for living in what was a really pretty small college town at that point. It was pretty nuts. So I don't know. We were really lucky to sort of be in that town at that time. But I feel like that, like us and then Less Than Jake and then Against Me, it's kind of the last run out of there. It went off, and now Tony's got Fest, kind of like keeping it going every year.
Yeah,
so.
I think I played the first Fest. I could have sworn it was like in a weird warehouse, like outside of town.
It took a minute to get going. But, I mean, now it's nuts. Now it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome, man. It brings tons of money to the city, and you know that's good, and it keeps punk rock alive. I mean, like look, you guys, Less Than Jake, No Idea / Less Than Jake / No Idea. I did a full summer tour with those guys, and they're super cool, like the best dudes.
Yeah.
Like real deal dudes, and like, you know, you guys really made that area the same way that, you know, like you were bands that made Long Island what it was, you know, back in the 90s. You know, it's it's cool, and you continue to influence people moving on to do things like you guys kind of took it to an extreme in your punk rock ethic, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, I was, you know, like when we toured together, like it would be like, you know, like all I cared about was getting a major label deal. Well, not that that's all I cared about. I was still putting.
Oh, that was there was a while where we were like, how could you say such a thing? Like,
yeah, oh yeah. Well, you loved it, but
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was kind of posturing and just kind of like, fuck you to the underground scene, because a lot of those kids that liked you would be like, fuck this band. And we were touring together because we were both on Some Records at the time and whatnot. And
yeah, like we're friends.
And we were friends. Yeah. Like, yeah. We appreciated each other's differences, shall we say. I mean, I I remember when you guys stayed with us in Douglaston in Queens, and we were driving to Coney Island High. We were playing together on the Leatherface tour, and fucking Wallard just like refused to let anybody else play music in the car. We were stuck in traffic, and he was just like, and he's just fucking playing all this old punk rock, and I'm like, dude, let's listen to Yes. He's like, fuck that shit, like, fuck that crap, it's garbage. And I was like, dude, it's not garbage, man, it's fucking incredible musicianship. Have you listened to your rhythm section lately? Like, what the fuck?
Fuck that.
Fuck that, I'm gonna play the Blitz or like fucking the Business. Check it out, man. This is the real deal, bro. It's like, all right, man.
That was a show that we couldn't find parking because of work, because New York, and you were like, dude, just park on the sidewalk and tell them that your battery's dead. The ticket won't be that bad. And I was like, all right. If that's what we did.
No, yeah, I know. And then fucking Wallard, you parked right in front of the club. And I remember Wallard was just like, I fucking hate New York, man. I like my small town. I want to know everybody. I want to know everybody in my neighborhood. I want to go to my local store, know everybody. And I'm like, you can do that in New York, dude. You lived here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like you can you can turn any part of New York, especially Brooklyn, into your own little small town.
Oh yeah, you don't have to leave. You're like 3 blocks most of the time.
No, totally not. Yeah, I mean it was just interesting, like back then, you know, what it was like and how they dealt with things. How your guys just like were so. I mean, but again, like do you remember when I bowled a 253 at the bowling alley in Gainesville?
Yes, I do. The bowling alley was awesome.
And then it got drunkenly thrown out of the bowling alley because I was standing on the table screaming. Yeah, that was good.
I feel like you like ran out along the tables and out the door.
And I didn't get a.
I don't know if that's how it happened, but that's how I remember
you're
it.
You're supposed to get a plaque if you bowled that high of a game, and I totally fucked it up. They were so pissed at me. I forget what song was on them. It was like a song.
I feel like Timmy from As Friends Rust was there too.
Yeah.
With that for sure. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
Who would remember way better than either one of us?
So one of the funniest things about Gainesville was some like it really truly was a small town. So like Leonardo's was like I remember like they would feed all the touring bands.
Yeah, for sure. In worst case scenario, everybody like you could pay $5 for everyone to eat or something. Like, yeah, it was definitely. It was.
What was the redhead girl's name? Fuck, she worked there for years. Fuck, she's probably like a doctor now or something smart.
I'm the only one in the band that didn't work there either, too. Like,
serious?
The whole time I lived in town, I was like, I'm never working there unless I really have to. And
wait.
Like
Sailor Caldwell, why fuck Leonardo's? Why are you saying fuck Leonardo's, man? That place was great. Come on. It was either that or Denny's.
You wouldn't even believe that corner now. It's like there's a giant, like across the street where Burrito Brothers and stuff was, is a giant, like mixed use Target, like McDonald's, grocery store. It's like a real, like that whole vibe of the town is
like a real strip mall.
Yeah, that whole vibe of the town is like still kind of going on downtown, but from like where Leo's was up and out is just unreal. Like I actually can kind of get lost. Chris Enriquez on 7 minutes left. Timer.
I know. And fucking Chris. He's such a pro. Consummate pro.
Right. Before you get kicked off.
Don't worry.
Okay.
We'll wait. I'll wait for the last couple of minutes. I mean, Jesus, we're reminiscent here, Chris. Fuck you. Why don't you talk about what an influence hot water was to you? Come on. I wish Eddie Reyes was on here, honestly. But yeah, this has been a great talk, and it's like for sure. It's super interesting to hear like your take on all this stuff, and like, you know, in all honesty, you and George are hands down to me the best rhythm section in punk rock. And you know, like you both. Oh, I wanted to ask you about this. I forgot to ask you about this. So the Modest Mouse record. So I know you've done studio work. You played like did that record come out? And did your bass tracks actually make it on?
No, they did not. I was there in Portland for, I don't know, 3 to 4 months, kind of working on that, like like a very long tryout, or audition, and working through some of those songs. And it was a bad fit. And then not in no negative to that at all. It was just a bad fit. Like, I don't fit with that band. I tried. They tried. And it didn't really. It's, and kind of, I mean, this is their original bass player that they have been trying to find a replacement for the whole time. Eric plays in such a unique way that's like such a part of that band that it's very like, you almost have to just make a left turn.
Did he quit? Was that the deal?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and he's still like around. They're very like there's a lot of them. They're very like, oh, this guy comes and does this one specific thing for a week, but then when we go on tour, he's there the whole time, kind of stuff. It's wild. It's very different than how I'm like. It's kind of a very train of thought, like open, just flowing.
I don't know, because we we started on Wed shortly after you came back from that experience.
Isaacs and my friend Lisa lived there at the time, that I've known forever, and I was staying there for a while, and that's when I started writing all those songs. So I was like, well, I want to write some stuff. Like, I got some time, and Hot Water had just finished Exister, so there wasn't any reason to write for us at that point. And I don't even know if we liked each other then. Who knows? I think we did. So. You never know.
As long as you come back around, it's okay. No
worries.
Yeah,
everyone's all the speed bumps have been jumped over, I hope.
All right, last question.
Yeah.
How many times has Hot Water Music broken up?
Twice. Officially.
Okay, so in '98 after the European
98
tour.
in Europe, and then, I mean, it depends on who you ask about the 2004 thing. That was when we started doing the draft. That was just like a really dark period. The New What Next, and then into the draft, and really until we got to like the last few years was a really when we started the band, we were all like, early 20s or whatever. And so there's a lot of change that happens in people between then and, wherever. I'm 44 now. So it took us a long time to work through all of the changes to get to where we're at now. And I think it kind of started in like around 2003, 2004 when, Chuck moved to California. That really changed the dynamic. We used to practice 5 days a week and just write songs. So then how do we deal with that, and how everyone dealt with that differently? And then it just sort of, everyone would have, then George is playing in Against Me, and then now I'm playing in Senses Fail. And then, so everyone was just all over the place, and nobody, we couldn't really get on the same page for a long time. And now we're finally on the same page, and everything's awesome. And I also feel like everyone's kind of, the air has been cleared and everyone's in a good spot.
I mean, at this age, who gives a shit at this point? So we got 2 minutes. I'm gonna ask you one last question.
Right.
What is your favorite fucking Hot Water song to play?
Ooh.
1 minute, 45 seconds.
I gotta think about it for a second. I mean, it depends. Like currently, probably Trusty Chords, because it's the crowd favorites. That's a lot of fun. It's
a classic, man. It's a fucking classic.
Like I'm not gonna deny that fucker.
Trusty Chords can be the answer. That's fine.
Yeah, I feel like there's the first track on the EP that we put out last year. We still haven't quite gotten around to getting it out there live, and I think if we do, that'll become my new favorite because we all really like that song. But it's just a little, Chuck doesn't stop singing on it, and it's like I don't know if he could actually breathe and sing it while he's playing live without passing out. He's like, dude, I don't know if I can do this. So, yeah.
Do a shot with me, Artie.
But yeah, I mean, I would say there's more songs I like playing than I don't like playing. That's for sure.
Classic,
and I mean,
classic you, dude.
and if I get really tired of playing a song, I'll just play a bunch of fills over it until I'm not bored until the end of it, and then.
All right, we got 21 seconds. We got 21 seconds. I love you. This was super fun. I want to thank everybody for watching. And yeah, Chris, stop bothering me. Age of Quarantine, this is great. Every night, 8 o'clock. Thank you so much. Jason, I love you, buddy.